Hello, everyone. Cecil Martin here.
Hey, this is Hunter Henry.
What's up, man? This is Max Crosby, part of Raider Nation.
Hey, this is Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman.
Hey, it's Tyler Lockett of the Seattle Seahawks.
Hey, this is Jerry Judy, wide receiver for the Denver Broncos, and you're listening to the Full10Yard NFL podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Full 10 Yards NFL podcast. I'm your host Sam Moores and this is our Week 1 recap show. Joining me today is another returning guest, as it has been the last couple of podcasts. It's Olly D'Arcy. Welcome, mate. We are both at the event in Birmingham last night. Thank you everyone for joining us at that event as well. This is a bit of a later pod than it would normally be on a Week 1 recap, just because we've had to catch up with every single game that we we missed last night. Because I was concentrating a lot on the Dolphins game, and Ollie with the Packers too, which we will bring to you in depth today. Don't you worry. But so thank you for joining us last night. And Ollie, I mean, look, what a Week 1 it was, really, especially in the later window as well. There are some good games, and I can't wait to talk about them with you, mate.
Yeah, no, it was a good, nice Week 1. Nice to have football back, isn't it? Good games, late window, a few humdingers in there, we'll call them, and then the early window as well. There was some nice surprises, some interesting games. So yeah, a lot to dissect.
We'll start with one of the main games that has captured the headlines over this morning in America and the whole day in the UK. Really, it's the Miami Dolphins beating the Los Angeles Chargers 36-34. Where we saw Tua Tagovailoa throw for 466 yards and 3 touchdowns to take down his rival Justin Herbert's Chargers in an epic shootout. Miami were unstoppable in the air and LA were dominant on the ground, really creating an epic Week 1 matchup. I mean, look, Ollie, it was great to watch, wasn't it? Really, it was just back and forth all over the place. It was Tua had, this is probably the best game of his career. It's this one or the 6 TD game against Baltimore last year, where they were a couple scores down and came back and won that. They're two very similar games, actually, the way the Dolphins were killed on the ground in Baltimore last year as well as they were today. But I think I've had on a couple podcasts today, I think everyone has sort of said that it feels like McDaniel's basically addicted to the pass, but you can see why, because once you can get Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, especially in open space, Tyreek going for over 215 yards, it's just they're just unstoppable.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I mean, it was so good to watch, wasn't it? I mean, Tua and Hill, when Tyreek and Tua are on that wavelength, which they were yesterday, it's just a thing of beauty, really. I mean, 11 catches, 215 yards for Tyreek Hill, and it's not his first 200-yard game either. It's almost becoming the norm for him. It's just, he's almost a safety blanket for Tua, and that's not a bad safety blanket to have, is it? I mean, we've had a lot of people saying, is Tua really good with the arm? Is it there? And yesterday, I think it may not have cemented it, but it showed, oh my goodness, it is there. Some of the dots he was throwing in pressure situations showed he does have it. He really does have it. And I mean, it was going to be a shootout. You whispered to me, you said to me, really, at the party yesterday that it was going to be a shootout. You knew it was going to be a shootout, and looked like Miami came out on top, and that's all they needed.
Yeah, the Chargers controlled the ground and obviously the time of possession in that way as well. But the Dolphins, every single time it felt like they touched the football, they were going to do something. It started very well as well, flowing like they were last year from the very start. But they had a few problems starting out. They got to the 2-yard line, but a second miscommunication on the same drive between the centre Connor Williams and Tua resulted in a lost fumble. So that was an opportunity where the Dolphins could have got more points, and the Chargers marched down the field and scored Eckler straight away there. But from that very moment, the Dolphins pegged level through Raheem Mostert, and then Eckler scored after a Jason Sanders chip shot field goal as well. Like, it was just score after score after score after score. And then we got to a few minutes before the half where the Dolphins took the lead after Tua found a wide open River Craycraft. He's another small receiver who can get open, like Braxton Berrios and Hill and Waddle. Is what the Dolphins like in the offense. I can see why, because they can just get open. But a career long field goal for Cameron Dicker again, a few minutes before the half, made it 17-17. Herbert 2-minute drill, getting down there, showing that you can quick strike offense when his team needs him. But then here's where the controversial sort of play hit, because it was the first of a few bad plays from J.C. Jackson that saw Miami thrown back into field goal range just a few seconds before the half, after it was a PI call, a pass interference call on J.C. Jackson, because 2 or 3 had ball into triple coverage, which was bad. I think it was his only real turn. Yeah. One of probably 2 plays that could have been a turnover in this game. Yeah. He had 6 big time throws by way of PFF, which is he led the league in big time throws yesterday. But yeah, it was an awful dime. Basically, it wasn't really a dime, but it was a deep shot into triple coverage, looking for Eric Uzunkarma, and J.C. Jackson. Well, he interfered with the pass, and it set the Dolphins up with a field goal, with literally like a second before they go, a second back on the clock, and those 3 points that the Dolphins had because of Jackson's mistake cost the Chargers the game. Because again, that was another time when the Dolphins scored. I can't. I think they might have punted once or twice, maybe, but I just can't record them punting. I think it was a mistake there, and it was one of a few mistakes from J.C. Jackson that really cost the Chargers this game, because it was neck and neck. But I think coaching and situationally, the Dolphins really won this game.
Yeah, I mean, you said that what penalties were. Well, the J.C. Jackson penalty was the key to winning that game for the Dolphins. Those 3 points were vital. They had the same amount of penalties, but only 38 yards worth of penalties for the Dolphins from their 6, compared to 70 yards for the Chargers. That they will lose you games, shootouts like that, when you have the same amount of first downs, 30 first downs each. I mean, you're going to have to be very, very well coached, well drilled, and it's happened time and time again with the Chargers, hasn't it? They've struggled with coaching. They've struggled with just being like, they're just looking after the team, looking after the ball, what have you, and it shot them in the foot again. It was just 1 penalty, and they were 2 points away from tying the game, 3 points winning it. But that's what loses you games, and that's what they pride themselves on. Really, they've got a very nice defense, but that offense is electric, and that's what I'm sure they pride themselves on. And to lose a game like that will be a big gut punch for them. Yeah,
I think it wasn't the first mistake from Jackson either. It was the Chargers sort of took momentum at the start of the second half. Tua and Hill had a big gain. First of 2 huge touchdowns as well to take a lead there. But before that, there was an interception by Tua to J.C. Jackson, but his after the Chargers scored before. But what happened was J.C. Jackson picked off Tua in the end zone, and he brought the ball out of the end zone for a couple yards, and then obviously got tackled, right? But then afterwards, Justin Herbert took a sack on third and 1, and he got put back to the 1 yard line. And that play again cost the Chargers the game, because they had to punt within their own end zone, because Kader Kahu on the sack, by the way, the corner, and the Dolphins scored straight away after that play. It was just there's a few ones that I think both teams felt they could have won this. The Chargers really felt like they probably threw it away, but again, probably the best game of his career. He just what he does with his accuracy and the way he moves people with his eyes. He showed today that he could step up into the pocket, which is another thing that people, I think, a lot of the time under pressure is when he could falter. But today there wasn't much pressure, but when there was pressure, he threw the best ball I've ever seen him throw, stepping up on 3rd and 10, basically going as far as he can before it's an illegal forward pass, and dropping a ball so Tyreek Hill can run onto it, which a lot of people said, he can't throw the deep ball because Tyreek's too fast. Well, that there shows exactly what Tua can do, and ultimately as well, after his interception in the third quarter, he was unstoppable, unplayable, and the same can't be said for Justin Herbert, who is in an awful situation in the Chargers, and I really hope that something changes in the future. But I mean, look, you look at this game and you just think, wow, the Chargers are badly coached and these two teams have electrifying offenses. That's what you do. You can say. And also, I think the Dolphins need to stop the run, and the Chargers, for a defense that, again, I mentioned it last week on the preview podcast. The Chargers defense is the defense that prides itself on being able to take away big plays. Well, today they got beat up by so many big plays. They did so great against the Dolphins in Sunday Night Football last year, but this year Montgomery went away. He plays the same defense now in Vic Fangio every single day in practice, and he outcoached Staley because he didn't adjust from what they did last time.
Yeah,
and I think both teams will be in the playoffs potentially, but I think I'm much more confident about the Dolphins than I am the Chargers coming out of this game.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as you said, I just want to pick up on that point just a little bit more on Tua. I was watching it and I was expecting a few good throws because I knew what Tua can do. But some of those throws that he just put on the lap of Tyreek Hill when it mattered was just brilliant. And it not even the one he ran on to 3rd and 10, stepping up in the pocket, the dot in the back of the end zone for the game-winning touchdown was a beauty. It was an absolute beauty.
He threw a back shoulder fade to a 5'10" receiver.
Yeah,
you throw them to tight ends or big receivers.
Yeah. And he just put it straight through the gap. It just landed in his hands. It was just made to be caught.
Yeah, his accuracy is a superpower, and if he stays healthy, which is the main thing, and we'll finish off with the offensive line, who without Teron Armstead, the Dolphins didn't allow a single sack, and Kendall Lamb and Austin Jackson, who's had a career revival at right tackle, drafted very highly by the Dolphins in 2020. He was been a turnstile the first few years, but Austin Jackson on the right hand side, under new offensive line coach Butch Barry, looks to have turned a corner, and they held out Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. Which is just I did not expect that at all when I started watching this game yesterday. So that was a huge positive for the Dolphins, who are really confident on their offensive line, as we've heard in camp. On to the next game, where we saw the Cincinnati Bengals drop an absolute clanger in week 1 yet again against the Cleveland Browns. The Browns' dominant run game really helped them brush past the Bengals, to be honest with you. Deshaun Watson joined the effort between Nick Chubb and Jerome Ford there. It gave Cleveland 35% minutes of possession, which is obviously a big chunk of the game. And their pass defense, so Denzel Ward and Grant Delpit, to be in particular, as well as many others, shut down the Cincinnati trio. Tyler Boyd had 1 or 2 catches. T. Higgins had no catches. Obviously, he had 8 targets and none of them were pulled down. The Browns were absolutely excellent in coverage there. And Joe Burrow now goes to 1-5 versus the Browns in his career, which is just mental. And it was the first game that the Browns have won in week 1 since 2004, which again it's just one of those stats. You're just like, what the hell? That's mad. But this game, obviously the rush showed with Burrow. He's not practiced at all in camp. He's come back this week, and there's again that, like last year, it came out the Bengals have come out and sort of dropped a bit of a stinker. But I don't think this is a sign that they're going to be bad this year by any means. I just think they're a team that takes a while to get going, and they probably are going to. I can see them putting up a load of points next week, because the Browns simply outplayed and outcoached them.
Yeah.
Especially on the defensive side of the ball with the new DC Jim Schwartz there. And what did you think about this game, Ollie?
I mean, you were talking about being outcoached. I don't know if it highlights Zach Taylor being not on the hot seat, because the Bengals have been fantastic, but it shows that there are much better coaches out there.
For sure.
I mean, it was just dominant, really. I just didn't expect that Cincinnati offense to just be held to 142 yards total. You don't expect it. They were my pick to win the AFC, and at the moment they still are, because week 1, everyone says it's week 1, and as you said, they might explode for 50 points next week. You just don't know what's going to happen. But it was dominance from the Browns defense, wasn't it, really? And it's a really good omen for them. It wasn't the prettiest game from either offense, was it? But the Browns defense came to play. They really, really did. I mean, 67 yards passing for the Bengals with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd at receiver, and Joe Burrow at quarterback, 2.6 yards a play. That's some fantastic stats to go forward with for the Browns. 2 for 15 on third down as well. I mean, it's just total domination, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely, mate. And I mean, on a positive side, I could probably say that the Bengals defense looked good, because it did look good. It did cause the Browns problems. Deshaun Watson was not good by any means. He looked more comfortable than he did last year, for example. But he still doesn't look the same guy he was in Houston. If anything, I was more impressed by the way the plays made with his legs than it was as a passer. He made one or two good throws to Elijah Moore and Amari Cooper. But I think that the Bengals could be encouraged defensively, especially after losing Jesse Bates. I had a big game for the Falcons, which we'll talk about later. But I think that it just feels like a classic Week 1 game where I think we don't know. We'll know a lot more about these teams, Week 10, Week 11, for example. But I think both of these teams are going to be very good this year, and we've not seen any. I think both these teams are capable of more. I think the Browns, if Deshaun can really step up, are going to be really hard to beat this year because they've got that defense, because they've got Nick Chubb, who is the best running back in football, who again took over this game. If he didn't make many big plays, but every play he was making was 3, 4, 5 yards, and that was a big difference for Cleveland. But I think that everything went wrong for the Bengals. Even Evan McPherson was missing kicks, and and obviously they took Burrow at the end out of the game at the end as well. Again, Watson, I said he wasn't great. He threw a ball straight at Dax Hill, their new starting safety, who played quite well. But look, I just like, I think I don't think I don't think the Bengals are done. I don't think, but anything like that. But I'm very encouraged by what I saw from the Browns yesterday, and again, hopefully it's a good start for a good season for them, because again they've gone through a lot of hurt, and as much as I want Deshaun Watson, the football player, to be back because he's electric, but
he is.
You've got to have serious questions about everything if he really can't be like you've traded him for, because not only have you got the off-field stuff, which I don't really want to talk about because it's not nice, but not only have you got that, but you've also committed a lot. This Browns team are in a Super Bowl window. If he doesn't succeed, then you're probably better off blowing it up. And this is a good start for that. They just need to take the next step now.
They've committed so much just by throwing him that almost obscene contract, because
I know
it was just they've put themselves in such an interesting position. I mean, you can debate it for 20, 30 minutes if it was the right or wrong decision. And at the moment, we still don't know. I mean, it wasn't special. 154 yards in the air, like you said. It wasn't impressive. But 21 first downs is great. You can move. They can move the ball, like you said. With having the legs that he's got, he can run in. He can just make things happen, which helped beat a very lackluster Bengals in Week 1. Whether they'll continue, we don't know. But if they can push forward, then who knows what it holds for them. That Super Bowl window may even open up just a little bit more, maybe a fraction more.
There we are. It'd be interesting to follow these two teams' stories, and obviously they meet again as well later in the season too. So we'll see what happens on this podcast. Then moving on to our final game, we're going to focus on in depth before going on to just picking out the best bits from all the other games. The Green Bay Packers, your Green Bay Packers, Ollie, away to the Chicago Bears. The Packers started a new era, but they still own the Bears, don't they?
Oh yes, yes they definitely do. I mean, I focused on that game yesterday. I was watching that very intensely, and no one knew what to expect. Bears fans didn't know what to expect. We didn't know what to expect, Packers fans. And oh my goodness, me personally, I was shocked. Shocked, strong word, but I was unbelievably impressed with Jordan Love. No one expected him to do what he did this week one this season, and it was fantastic. It wasn't like the stats weren't like unbelievable, they weren't eye-popping, but the one eye-popping stat was Love going 8 for 10 for 141 yards and a couple of TDs on 3rd and 4th downs.
Oh, I know.
That is sublime. That is so good. In your first start away at Soldier Field, fantastic. And it's just, as a Packers fan, it's got me very excited, and the rest of the cheeseheads.
Yeah, honestly, it just felt that this game was closer than it felt like, but the Packers were just a step ahead of the Bears situationally, because the Bears are going field goal after field goal and they turn the ball over a bit, and it was just like it just. It was very close. It was it was 7-6 at a 2-minute warning.
Yeah.
Jordan Love led the Packers to a 10-7 lead and a field goal in that 2-minute drive, and before and then after that, Aaron Jones set the Packers up to the goal line, and 2 plays later, after the kickoff, Aaron Jones walks into the end zone, and it's a completely different game. You score straight away. That's 10 points that you pick up in a matter of seconds. Game time, obviously, there's 15 minutes in between the two halves, but there was that, and then there was the 3-and-out for Chicago. Jayden Reed's big kick return, taking it into Chicago 40 as well, and then it looked like Chicago had got a stop. It was you're on your 32-yard line. It was 4th and 3, and you mentioned obviously the massive stats on 3rd and 4th down. Pretty much every single play that Jordan Love made was on 3rd or 4th down, and one of the biggest one was him hitting Aaron Jones across the middle of the field, not only for a massive gain on 4th and 3, but also for a touchdown, putting the Packers at 24-6. And it just felt like nobody could touch Aaron Jones after he beat TJ Edwards in the middle of the field.
No, I mean, it was Aaron Jones. It was such a weird game for Aaron Jones. He touched the ball 5 times on the opening drive for the Packers, and we went down the field and scored. He did not touch the ball for the rest of the first half, which was just absolutely criminal from Matt LaFleur. He then got the ball a lot more in the next 2 drives, and we marched down the field and scored two touchdowns. Nicely done, really impressive. He scored 2 touchdowns on those drives. One was being the 4th and 3, and he punched it in after doing most of the work. But again, Love was very good on those 3rd down situations. We'll talk about the Bears, I'm sure, very soon. But I've got a couple of things to say about the Packers as well. I mean, it was on the defensive side. Well, no, we'll go offensive. I've got one more thing on the offense. The scheming was very clever. And it was very nice to see. It wasn't just being bombarded on Love, going to pass heavy. Some of the plays were actually very nice, very sweet. There was a really nice gain on our first drive in the second half that he swung out play action and then threw it back across and set up a really nice screen for Jones. It's just nice, easy plays for him that just builds his confidence up and up. That is absolutely beautiful, and that's what I loved about him, and he looked very good in those situations. Defensively as well, we looked nice, very nice. I know it's only week 1, but we look good. We made some very good tackles. I mean, it is the Bears, as I said. We'll talk about them very soon. You can only play what's in front of you, and we looked nice on defense. But as I said, week 1, good tackles throughout the field. But yeah, the Bears, it's going to be a very tough season for them again if they continue to show what they showed against Green Bay yesterday.
I look at the Bears and I just think, I know Fields isn't a problem, because for me, I watch him and he's still the best quarterback on the field yesterday. Like as in he didn't have the best game yesterday, but I still look, he's the most. For me, I'd rather have Justin Fields than I would Jordan Love. So I know that Fields adds something, right? I know that Fields I think his ceiling is way higher than it is with Love as well. He's got the element of his legs, And
Yeah.
I don't think he looked bad yesterday. He had one, obviously the Quay Walker pick six was probably the worst play you can get. But
Yeah.
other than that, other than that, honestly, he didn't look that, he wasn't the reason why Chicago couldn't move the ball yesterday. Their offensive line sucks. Their defensive line sucks as well, so they couldn't get off the field because the Packers on the ball like forever.
Yeah.
And and the coaching was awful. Offensively and defensively, the coaching in the second half was absolutely awful. It just because the game was there. You're only 4 points down at half time, right? The game was there to be won, and they absolutely crumbled. And it shows me that the Packers, the coaching's good. Obviously, LaFleur, big pedigree, Shanahan, McVay, Tree, and everything, and I think, again, that's why I think Love looked like. I watched in depth, again, the Miami game, the Green Bay game, the San Francisco game today, especially, right? All those three offenses, they sometimes, to me, they look interchangeable because they're so similar.
Yeah.
They do things differently, obviously. The Niners run a lot more. The Dolphins, they use a lot of motion. You're talking like Tyreek Hill lining up a tight end and moving out and things like that. And then the Packers, it felt more like the Niners offense. But that's what I was looking for Love, because I feel like you could win a division if you can sort of run the ball more, which you did. Obviously, Aaron Jones had a huge day. I hope you can see more of AJ Dillon and everyone kind of in the game in the future. But I think I think LaFleur had it was a big game for LaFleur because obviously he was tied down for Rodgers his entire Packers career as a coach. He was tied down to what Rodgers did, and that's the best the Packers have looked the last couple of years. I think, especially last year, there was nothing on offense. Nothing.
I will agree with last year. We looked a lot better because it was brilliant to have Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback, yes, but he does tie you down in play calling, and it was getting a little bit stale, which you did see last year. Matt LaFleur shackles off; he can call what he wants, and he had sticky moments as he has done throughout, which isn't why he's vaulted into like top 5 coaches in the league at the moment. Because Jones touching the ball 5 times on one drive, then not touching it again is just inexcusable. But he had some good calls. He brought out some very nice play calls, played to Love's strengths, and that really helped. And that cemented the win for Green Bay. Conversely, Matt Eberflus, I said to you before the game, he will be sacked by the end of the season. And if he carries on the way he's going, he might even last this season. It's just such interesting coaching. It's just I don't really know, because as you said, Fields wasn't awful, and they ran the ball all right. But when you have a terrible defense like they do, they're still rebuilding their defense. Really, it isn't going to help. And some of the play calls from Eberflus, maybe on defense, definitely Getsy on offense for the Bears, was just questionable at times, just not giving Fields the chance to let it fly. And it showed, and it could be yet another long season for them.
Yeah, and I thought you were a bit nuts when you said it. I said it yesterday, and I was saying to Charlie today as well. I was saying, I don't know. You said Eberflus could be on the hot seat already. And I was like, I don't know. But then I watched the game, and I was like, yeah, I kind of agree. Where I feel like maybe you should keep an eye on him. I don't think he'll get fired mid-season. I think that's I don't think that's going to happen.
It might be a bit rash, but I mean, to be fair, the amount of capital they've put into this team this year, they're not going to stand for 2-3 wins in mid-season, are they?
No, they're still midway through the rebuild. The thing, and they're not done by any means, but they're midway through now. They've brought in the receiver. They just need the probably, I would say, the pass rush, and probably another defensive back there. I think now that then they look a lot better, and obviously offensive line as well, which will need to be improved. But yeah, they're not a finished article by any means. But yeah, maybe they make a change because they're not well coached from what I saw yesterday. Onto the first of they're going to sort of going to riddle through now, just to sort of give you an update of what we thought what happened and really where we think the league stands after the week 1 games. So the San Francisco 49ers beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 30-7, and this game was a bit of an odd one because the Steelers weren't awful, but it just felt like they, after the first sort of 2-3 Niners drives and the turnovers and stuff, they just felt like they were out of it. It was the ball from Brock Purdy to Brandon Ayuk for the second touchdown was an absolutely lovely throw right into his arms, and the contested catch was awesome. 2nd and 15 on the next drive. Again, Kenny Pickett had an interception dropped by Fred Warner. That was the first of a few odd passes, and it was very much like the Steelers' offense. Like it didn't look awful to me, but they got unlucky. Pickett and Pickens have a good collection, but I still just don't. It wasn't what it was hyped up to be in the preseason. It really wasn't. The Niners defense was good. They really showed that. They showed Drake Jackson, the guy who's going to be starting opposite Nick Bosa this year. He had a good game. Obviously, so did many of the defensive players. The best part of the game for me was seeing that on the second Kenny Pickett interception, which was a bad ball into double coverage. It was tipped by Fred Warner, caught by Talanoa Hufanga, who then lateraled the ball to Sean Gibson to gain an extra couple, extra 10-15 yards, and that was good to see. When we were watching it in the bar last night, it was one that we all did notice, and there's a lot of hype about Pittsburgh, especially Pickett. They played a tough defense. TJ Watt had a great game, 3 sacks and all his other numbers too, forced fumbles, recoveries. It was a great start for my defensive player of the year pick, but my coach of the year pick with Mike Tomlin didn't get off to the greatest of starts. What do you sort of take away from this game and how Pittsburgh played, and also how the Niners played too?
Well, if you're lateraling on interceptions, I think that just shows how confident and how good your defense is, really, doesn't it? It's just the 49ers have been doing defense like this for a long, long time, for a good few years now, and it just showed again. Steelers did pull a shocker getting the Niners in the first week. It not easy. Preseason Pickett maybe didn't come through as much, but as you said, it wasn't horrendous. But when Najee Harris is only going for 31 yards, you are really going to struggle. But that's just,
most of that was on one gain as well.
Yeah,
because
that's just a testament to the defense, isn't it, of San Francisco? That's just what they can do, and offensively, as you said, as we've just already spoken about, the Shanahan, the McVay tree is just so good when you have the pieces, and when you have someone like Brock Purdy who can be accurate, who doesn't have to be special. He can be accurate. He can make those throws, like you said, to Ayuk for the second touchdown. You can do stuff like that, and they can put up 30 points with relative ease against a very good Steelers defense. That Steelers defense they're no slouches. I mean, Minka Fitzpatrick, TJ Watt, that's just two on that defense, and they looked pretty middle of the road. So yeah, 49ers, as I said, week 1, pinch of salt maybe, but they look dangerous, very, very dangerous.
Yeah, I came away thinking that the Steelers defense, I think it will be good all year. I came away thinking, I think they'll be fine. 30 points against, obviously a lot of the points were surrendered up by the offense as well, which there is nothing there. But really, they weren't the problem. I think the problem was that the Steelers had nothing in the air in the first half. Kenny Pickett, before the 2-minute drive, was 6 for 11 for 18 yards and it probably should have been 2 interceptions. which is just it's not good. It's really not.
It's really not.
And but what I was saying before is electrifying offense or whatever. Like again, the offensive line for the Steelers didn't hold up like I thought it would do. It's still got problems, even though they spent a little bit of money on it this offseason. The Steelers offense just couldn't hold up Whereas the Niners offense, because they've got the weapons like Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, every single one of them had big plays yesterday. Every single one of them did. And even with, a little bit worried about the Niners O-line, even after that, they still scored 30 points. I think with them, it was my worries. I picked them because I was a little bit worried about. I picked the Steelers because I was a little bit worried about them before the Niners going into the season. I'm not worried now. They're the same as they did at the end of last year. And Purdy, again, he really impressed me because Tomlin's a good DC. The film was out there on how to beat the Niners now. Towards the end of last year. And Purdy had a good game, and I think that's really good news for the Niners. On to the next game that I really thought was quite interesting. It was the Eagles away to the Patriots, and the game started with a big 3rd and goal sack from Matt Judon, thinking, oh, okay, maybe the Patriots will be able to do something on defense. Then it's sort of, unfortunately, the Patriots, and it's costing the game actually really, because the rest of the game they were absolutely phenomenal, I would say, other than two costly mistakes in the first quarter. Unfortunately, Mac Jones had a pick six on the next drive. It wasn't his fault. It bounced off Kendrick Bourne's hands, and Darius Slade took it to the house. It was like Brian Branch against Mahomes on Thursday night. Got worse for New England as well, as on the very next play, Ezekiel Elliott fumbled a short pass from Mac Jones, and it was recovered by the Eagles. Hurts hit Devontae Smith for a touchdown, and it was 16-0 before you know it. After that, the Eagles didn't look great at all. The Patriots moved the ball better on offense. And I was really impressed with what the Patriots put out yesterday, because look, I think Kendrick Bourne is a real player. It was unfortunate that the pick was his fault. But Kendrick Bourne looked like a player to me. I think Mac Jones looked a lot better than he did last year, which is good for Bill O'Brien. The Patriots defense stepped up as well. Like they traditionally have they struggle to really defend against running quarterbacks when they had Hurts pretty well dealt with yesterday, so I would have to say. And I think New England, they played themselves back into the game at the end, because Philly sort of got away a little bit by recovering a fumble. But Booty, the receiver, on 4th and 11 was out. We didn't get his feet in, and ultimately that won Eagles the game, because that conversion, 4th and 11 to the 11, really would have put the Patriots in a spot where they could have won the game. But if you're a Patriots fan, I'm really encouraged, because it looks like, we'll see how tonight goes. It looks like all 4 teams in the AFC is going to be really good this year. And if you're the Eagles, obviously there's a lot has changed for the Eagles. New OC, new DC, a lot of new starters. They're really happy with who they have as the starters, because a lot of them are first round picks or players who were expected to go first in the first round that fell because of sort of off field issues or something like that. It's just, I now feel I would probably say now I'm a lot more confident about the Niners than I am the Eagles, because yesterday they were, I would say they were probably the second best team.
The Patriots played
Belichick,
themselves.
by the way. Well done, Belichick and Bill O'Brien. That's the thing. The coach. They are by far the least talented team, but the coaching there was really good.
Absolutely.
But Belichick needs this season as well, because he's under pressure now, because without Brady, he's obviously losing record and everything, and it looks like he was under pressure a lot, heading into the year, because Kraft said, I want this, I want that, and yesterday was the occasion with the Brady return. He's going to be fast tracked into the Patriots Hall of Fame too. They said on the 12th of June next year. Obviously 6 Super Bowls for the Patriots. The award number 12 makes sense there. But yeah, no, I think it's probably the best the Patriots have looked for the last couple of years, I'd say, both offense and defensively. And the Eagles, again, what do you take on them?
I take more away, honestly, from the Patriots than I do the Eagles. I mean, we know what the Eagles can do from last season. It's not really a changed team, so we know the Eagles can do what they've done. I think you take a lot more away from the Patriots and say they are a damn good football team when coached properly, which they were on Sunday yesterday. They played well. Mac Jones, as you said, he turned up when it was needed. He only had that one interception, that pick six, which wasn't his fault, which proved costly. It proved costly. They look really good. I wasn't expecting it to be, when it was 16-0 in the first quarter, I was like, right, here we go, Eagles, absolute blowout. And they just kept bringing it back slowly and slowly. And they were so close. I mean, there were just brutal holding calls that were just called on them, like 3 or 4 on one drive. I'm pretty sure.
Well, they were missing a few offensive linemen as well.
Yeah,
So obviously
it
a
just
lot of them were,
it,
yeah.
it just sent them back, and you can't do that against the Eagles. As poor as they were, yesterday, they were just you can't give them that. I mean, Hurts, he didn't look to his MVP best, which is not good for my MVP take. I mean, I mean, 79 of his yards went to AJ Brown, which is almost expected, and that is obviously going to help you win games. But as I said, I take more away from the Patriots and the way they played and the way their defense stepped up as well. Their defense, with Matt Judon as your pass rusher, is going to cause problems, and they cause problems with the Eagles. And if they can continue to do that throughout this season, it's going to be so tight up at their division. It's going to be a really interesting one to watch.
It will be indeed. On to the next game between the Bucs and the Vikings. This was way closer than I thought it would be. I was shocked when I watched this because Baker Mayfield looked really good yesterday, and we'll get into that. The Vikings had a great start. They were driving down the field very well. A couple of big plays between Jefferson and Cousins are connecting. And then Cousins started the game with a fumble on 3rd and 2, and it looked like the Bucs would make him pay because Baker had a great deep shot to Mike Evans right from the start, but it was broken up and they ended up on the next drive. And they broke up and ended up punting. And then Cousins did a second straight fumble on 3rd down. This time it set up an instant red zone opportunity for the Bucs. And I mean, luckily the Vikings defense held the Bucs to a field goal, which is good because the Vikings defense, especially situationally last year, was awful. And Brian Flores had a quarter game yesterday from what I was seeing. I think Cousins, he has 2 costly mistakes because the Vikings offensively looked really great, and then they turn the ball over twice. Turn the ball over twice, and they just lost all their mojo, and it allowed the Bucs to come back into this game. Kirk Cousins redeemed himself from 3rd and 11 at the start of the second quarter. He had a deep shot to a wide open Jordan Allison in the end zone. The Bucs got a field goal before that, by the way. It was a perfect start to Allison's career. He looked awesome. I really think he's got a chance of getting offensive rookie of the year this year because he's going to be probably Cousins' number 2 option behind Justin Jefferson. To put the Vikings 7-3 up. But just before the half, Baker found Mike Evans all alone in the end zone for a 8-yard touchdown. Obviously 10-3. And Cousins did bring them back to a 10-10 score at half time. He led them on but that was because of a pass interference call, essentially. And after that, it was just back and forth. Alexander Mattison, Baker Mayfield really scored a touchdown, and then Baker Mayfield on second and goal. Baker Mayfield, following a Chase McLaughlin 57-yard field goal, his 3rd down rush in the 4th quarter won Tampa Bay the game because it was a 3rd and 8, and he escapes and makes a 1st down, and then it's a pass after that to Chris Godwin. And the Bucs had shot the Vikings, and honestly, I think that Kirk Cousins really probably is to blame. You'd say perhaps they couldn't run the ball, I think, as much as well as I thought they would do, because Mattison in previous years has sort of really looked not too dissimilar from Dalvin Cook. The Vikings again, losing, and the Bucs pulling off a shot.
I mean, we were speaking to Owen, who's also works for Full 10 Yards, and he picked the Buccaneers to win the NFC South. And with that performance, you couldn't say no, really. I mean, it was such a weird game between 2 really weird teams. Everyone, myself included, have said the Vikings aren't going to win this division. And then there are other people that are saying, watch out for the Vikings. They could be really dangerous because they haven't lost that many people. But there's just some energy around the Vikings. There's just not there. I mean, last season was They had, or was it last season where they had those one possession wins?
Yeah, so they were 11-0 in one score games last year. But the year before, you were the worst team on in one score games. So completely flipped. And this year, I think it will even out a bit. But the Vikings this year, I think I'm lower down on them because they got a tougher schedule for one, but two because the division seems way more competitive now. Like last year, the Packers are rubbish, the Bears are rubbish. So it was just, and the Lions for most of the season were also rubbish. The Vikings just picked up wins. The Lions had the run at the end of the season, but the Vikings were a bit fortunate. And we saw in the playoffs when they laid an egg against the Giants that they weren't proper contenders. Now I don't know. I'm still confident. It's a big year for Kirk Cousins, and I think they'll still be a playoff team. But it really is go back to the drawing board here because I know because ultimately it didn't flow very well after the first half, let's say. And then for the Bucs, I said in the guide, I said it in the season preview, their defense will win them games. And again, that compared with Baker Mayfield, who hasn't even got a good offensive line, looking probably the best he's looked in a while. I think I genuinely think that the Bucs were one of my biggest surprises on yesterday, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they can pose the rest of the season too. On to the next game, which I'm sure. Is there anything you want to say there, mate? Or
I was just going to talk about Baker really, really quickly.
Yeah,
he's a quarterback that just plays on energy, doesn't he? I mean, you saw it at the Rams. He came in and won that game for them. This year, he's come into Tampa Bay, bit of energy, and he's won them the game, and it will just lift them. And as you said, their defense will help them a lot. I think that probably will help Baker as well, and they can win some games. And the NFC South is not pretty, and it's not going to have to be pretty to win that division title. And if they play like they did yesterday, they're well on their way.
There we are. Another one of the shocks yesterday. This one was probably the biggest shock, I think. The Rams upsetting the Seahawks. The Rams, a team of unknowns, shocked Seattle to take a big victory. A huge game from Matthew Stafford, finally healthy, and it looked it as well. He had 5 big-time throws, an average depth of target of 11.3, which is third in the league yesterday. Tutu Atwell and Patrick Nakua stepping up in the absence of Cooper Kupp there as well. They've had a run game with Cam Akers getting a TD and obviously taking a fair few carries as well and looking good. Kyron Williams as a short yardage back got 2 touchdowns as well. And obviously the Seahawks lost Abraham Lucas and look, second half they were awful. They really were. Cause it was another. It's like the Bears. It was another game where it was close, and then second half they completely crumbled. Offensively, they had 3 yards. I know Owen, he was on a podcast a couple of weeks ago. We were watching the game of him yesterday, and he was really struggling to watch it. But no, the Seahawks, they're missing a few players. The Seahawks are, and especially key players, Jamal Adams, Devon Witherspoon. Obviously, they lost the right tackle there as well. But this Rams team was really fun to watch, really fun to watch, and it just embodies Sean McVay as a person. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they do this season, because if their stars can stay healthy, obviously they're without Cooper Kupp in this game, but if Stafford stays healthy, and Aaron Donald, who obviously had a big mark yesterday as well, if both of them can stay healthy, then now you've got a formula where it's like, okay, we have basically an entire roster full of players with chips on their shoulders. Literally a full roster full of it, right? They're all playing, they're all playing for a job, because there is a starting job in the NFL to be had for every single one of them, right? And which they probably wouldn't get from any other team. They've got great role models around them as well, and yeah, I was really encouraged by the Rams. And Geno didn't look great yesterday. I don't really know what Seattle are now. We'll see what they look like when they get their defensive stars back. But defensively, they didn't look great at all yesterday, and that really does worry me.
No, defensively, they didn't look good. But I think you can kind of overlook that without having Devon Witherspoon and Jamal Adams. It's not a good look by any stretch, but there's, you say, potential there. They were missing a couple of stars. The offense is something to be worried about, because they weren't missing many people. They weren't missing any people, if that. And Kenneth Walker, he had a few 12 carries, 64 yards, not what we're used to from him. But Geno Smith, after getting that contract, after having a pretty good year last year, They had a pretty good year. That was pretty abysmal. It was really, really not good. Not a good look for him. And as you say, you just don't know where you go. I mean, on the other hand, the Rams, who everyone expected to lay an egg this whole season, chips on their shoulder, and they rolled in and they played some very, very nice football. Matt Stafford, as you said, back from injury. It's nice to see, and him playing at his level was very nice, and he made Tutu Atwell look very competent, look very, very nice with 119 yards. And this is without Cooper Kupp. I mean, he's on IR. He'll miss 4 games. Hopefully that's it, because he's a star and he makes the Rams team and he makes the NFL better. But when he comes back, and if that Rams defense with Aaron Donald at the helm can turn up every week, they're going to be dangerous again, which no one saw coming. And it was a big shock to see the Seahawks play as poorly as they did, but the Rams look as fun as they did. And I think that's another testament to some brilliant coaching from Sean McVay.
There we are. On to the next game, which was the biggest blowout of week 1 between the Cowboys and the Giants. And we were driving back from the party last night, and it just felt like the Cowboys, just especially for the first half, just kept scoring. Ollie kept saying they scored, and before you know it, I lost care about the game, to be honest with you, because it wasn't close. It wasn't close at all. The Cowboys defense helped them drop a 40-burger on their division rival Giants. The game started with a bang as the high snap goes over Daniel Jones' head. He took a big loss on the 3rd down. The resulting field goal from Graham Gano was then blocked by the Dallas defender in return for a touchdown by Noah Igbinoghene, who they just traded for from the Dolphins. The resulting extra point was actually missed as well. And then from then, the game just flew out of the Giants' hands. A quick 3-and-out ended in the first with a plethora of sacks on the Cowboys and Micah Parsons, who buried Daniel Jones. And before you know it, Dallas were up by 9 thanks to another field goal, and then 16 after the bland pick 6 off yet another deflected pass. We saw it's a theme of week 1. Loads of pick sixes that are not the fault of the quarterback at all. But then that happened, and then by the middle of the second quarter, it was 26-0 as Tony Pollard ran in for a toss from Dak Prescott. His then second TD came at the beginning of the 3rd before Turpin scored the 40th and final point. And then Dallas just absolutely bulldozed the Giants yesterday. I thought the Giants would regress going into this year. I think they're probably a better talented team, but they've got a very, very difficult schedule, including playing these Cowboys, who look a better team than they were last year. Obviously, Dak's back healthy and everything. And yeah, I think they're well coached, the Giants team, but they are lacking a bit of talent. Obviously, their offensive line didn't look great yesterday. I'll dive into that why this week and have a look. But yeah, the Cowboys defense is so good, and it won me in my matchup of fantasy as well. So I thank you, Dan Quinn, thank you, Micah Parsons, thank you, Noah Igbinoghene, and everyone else. But yeah, it was a comprehensive performance for Dallas, and the Giants. I'm not surprised this happened really. They just regroup now, doesn't it? But the defense is so good that it can really. I think it could shut out a lot of offenses.
Yeah, that was just brilliant. I mean, Dallas putting up 40 points, unbelievable. But you've got to take it with a big pinch of salt because of how many defensive touchdowns they had. I mean, fantastic. 40 points, unbelievable week 1 against the Giants, your division rivals. But when your defense is playing that good, it doesn't matter what your offense is like. You're going to win a lot of games, which they will do. That defense with Dan Quinn at the helm. I don't know how Dan Quinn managed to work his magic at DC, but he is just doing some brilliant things with that Cowboys. It's full of talent, and he's just taking all of it, and he's just making one mean monster in that backfield. And on the line as well with Micah Parsons, it's just dangerous. But we don't know what the Cowboys really hold on offense yet, and that's why it's going to be interesting to see how they play next week when their defense isn't going to be as dominant, because it will be pretty dominant, but it's not going to be keeping people scoreless throughout the season. So when that offense has to play, it'll be interesting to see what they do. But I mean, if you're a Cowboys fan, you're taking that and running with it, and you're looking forward to the rest of the season. As you said on the Giants, quick mention on them throwing that contract at Daniel Jones is week one, but putting all that capital into him is going to be very interesting. Saquon playing on the tag, wanting a deal, really not showing up. You said they were going to regress. It looks like they're going to. They are lacking talent, and they've put a lot of capital into certain positions, and I think that's just going to leave some gaping holes. And that was shown last night, wasn't it?
Yeah, they didn't look impressive at all. On to the game that, again, I was probably most looking forward to watching when I got home from last night. It was the Jags at the Colts. Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley got the Jags season off to a hot start, defeating the Colts, who really impressed under new head coach Shane Steichen. Of course, the Anthony Richardson interception gave the Jags an edge in a shootout. That was one of the games of the week, really. It started with Lawrence finding Ridley in the first quarter a couple of times, including a TD on 3rd and 8, where Trevor Lawrence showed off his sort of escapability to get his new weapon time to get open in the back of the end zone. He sort of span out round to the left, and Ridley was there, number 0, wide open in the back of the end zone. Anthony Richardson's first touchdown was a run to start the second quarter, and following a drive that like the Colts, like they really played into the hand. Sorry, the Jags really played into the hands of the Colts, because there was another interception off a player's hands. This time it was running back Tank Bigsby, which is his first NFL game. A real welcome to the NFL moment here. Again, not Lawrence's fault, but the Colts there are now there in the red zone to score and take the lead. It's just like straight away. And it's it was mad to watch that. What did happen is they turned the ball over in the red zone. They couldn't get there. It was 4th and 1. Anthony Richardson couldn't get in for a QB sneak, but the defense played well, a lot better than I thought it would do yesterday. Touchdowns from Zay Jones and Michael Pittman either side of half time set up a tie game midway through the third quarter at 14-0. But again, it was very close throughout. Brandon McManus made it 17-14 for the Jags, but then the Colts took the lead through a second welcome to the NFL moment for Tank Bigsby, who recovered the fumble in the air from Trevor Lawrence, relaxes, stands up, the player's in dead because he's not touched the ground, and DeForest Butler just hits the ball out of his hand and runs and scores a defensive touchdown. So make it 17-21 to the Colts at the start of the fourth quarter, which just that was mad watching that this morning back. It was just like, wow. Yeah. That I mean, ultimately Bigsby is kind of did cost the Jags a lot of points yesterday, but he got a touchdown. He did get a touchdown to redeem himself. Over a period of 2 plays, one he just sort of bulldozed into the end zone, and then the second play he just went in from the 1 yard line, to 1 yard line, and then the second play he went in from there. And the Jags sort of took a stronghold in the game towards the end, especially when Anthony Richardson threw an interception, and then Travis Etienne's his run gave the Jags the victory as well, just to see it. But the Jags offensively looked really good. Obviously, they were let down, and I was really good to see Evan Ingram, Calvin Ridley, Zay Jones, Christian Kirk all making plays. Bigsby, Etienne. The defense of the Jags really stood out for me as well, because Richardson's a player that you it's difficult to deal with, let's say, because you don't really know what one is rookie quarterback. You don't really know what's going to show, but also the legs, and the legs did make plays yesterday, like you said. But the way they stepped up and won the game, Tyson Campbell interception, Anthony Richardson at the end of the game. For me, I think the Jags. I'm really high on the Jags, and also now I think they're probably going to be top 2-3 seeds in the NFL. If I was in the AFC, if I was to have a guess now, because easy schedule, team's looking great coach. But the Colts now, I think, I'm really impressed by the way Anthony Richardson played yesterday. He was the rookie QB I think he was the best yesterday. He surprised me the most, because I thought he would come out and throw 5 for 15 straight away. But no, he was really accurate yesterday. He made some good throws. And it just shows how good of an offensive mind Shane Steichen is, and because he did the same thing with Jalen Hurts. And without Steichen yesterday, Hurts did not look the same player.
Yeah.
So that is a really interesting thing to follow this season. I don't know what your thoughts are, Roddy.
Yeah, the Colts were, it was, you said, an interesting one. I wasn't expecting Richardson to be as accurate and as good as he was yesterday. He looked very nice. I mean, coming out, it was all about arm talent, but will he have the accuracy and all this? And if anything, we didn't see much of the arm talent really, and we saw a lot more accuracy, which I'm sure will please a lot of Colts fans really. As you said, there's a lot to like about them. No one thought they'd push the Jags this close, but the Jags, although they were pushed close by a Colts team that they didn't expect to happen, when it mattered most, they turned up. And as you said, that offense looks pretty tasty. 14 points in that final quarter shows they can play when it matters. Travis Etienne hopefully will have his breakout year, and if week one's anything to go by, he will do that. He had some very nice runs. That touchdown run was impressive, very, very impressive. And then Calvin Ridley coming back is going to be huge for them. It's just another weapon for the Jags, for Trevor Lawrence. After Christian Kirk, they threw boatloads of money at Christian Kirk, but it paid off because he was very good last year. But having Calvin Ridley now, it's just elevated them a little bit more. And as you said, with their schedule, there's a lot to like coming out of Jacksonville. Defensively as well, they look pretty slick. And the Jags could force a lot of surprises, could spring a lot of surprises on the AFC this year.
Oh, for sure. Sticking in the AFC, we'll go to Denver, where they dropped the loss to the Raiders 17-16. And this one came down to the very end of the game. Ultimately, it was a hard hit to the head by Jacoby Myers, who was by far the standout player in this game. He looked unreal, Jacoby Myers did yesterday. Obviously back with Josh McDaniels, who was with in New England. And so it launched the Raiders 15 yards downfield into the game, because it was neck and neck this whole game. 16-13 going into the end of the game, obviously, where the Raiders did end up going to win. But I was shocked to see Jimmy Garoppolo not only go and run on 3rd and 7 and make the first down, but how untouched he was or anything. It's like they didn't. It's like they just said, "Oh, Jimmy won't do this, so we're just going to leave him," and he just gracefully glided away and won the Raiders that game on 3rd down. And I'm encouraged by both teams actually, because the Broncos look better with Russ, and I think the Raiders looked a lot better than they did last year. Defensively as well, I thought they looked better as well. They've got some DBs now. But yeah, I came away pleasantly surprised by both teams, especially the Raiders, because they looked well coached yesterday, which they did not at all last year. And look, Broncos fans, you probably should have won. I'd say you did, but the fact you didn't win, But I say both teams probably deserved to win this game. It was that close. But Denver, I think Denver fans are probably going into meltdown in a minute. That's what I've seen on Twitter. Don't, because I was very pleasantly surprised by what you put out yesterday, as it was with the Raiders, and this game was fun to watch too.
I mean, I was looking at the stats, and this game was just unbelievably close. So, for both teams, as you said, they played pretty well, higher than expected, especially after what both teams went through last season. I mean, Raiders 261 yards to the Broncos 260 yards, and they had Raiders had 4.7 yards per play, Broncos 4.5 yards per play, the same amount of first downs, 22, and the same first down efficiency of 5 for 11. I mean, that's just ridiculous. So as you said, it's not time to go into panic mode. No panic buttons need to be pressed for the Broncos, because they looked a bit better. Russ looked a little bit better under Peyton, and I think that will just continue throughout the season, to be honest, because we know what Russ can do. And we know what Peyton is like with his offensive mind. Whether he's still got it, time will tell. But hopefully, for Broncos' sake, they can do it. But the Raiders, with Jimmy Garoppolo, being well coached, we know what a well coached Garoppolo can do. He's not going to be as high as Shanahan, obviously, coach wise at the Raiders, but he looked good. He did what he needed to do. Jacoby Myers, as you said, had himself a game, and it was a pleasant surprise for the Raiders, and they'll be interesting to follow throughout the rest of the season if they can continue their winning ways.
Well, not only did the Raiders win yesterday, Derek Carr also won yesterday, beating the Tennessee Titans in the Superdome. This one was horrible, a horrible game of football. It was awful to watch. Ryan Tannehill, he is not the answer. He's done. I'm sorry, he's done in Tennessee. He is done. The last 2 years, the quarterbacks they brought in only shows that. But man, I just look. Don't get me wrong, Derek Carr didn't look great either. Derek Carr looked the better quarterback, but I probably will say that I think that both the Bucs and the Falcons were very good compared to the Saints yesterday, which does worry me in the division for them. Tannehill's interceptions were all bad. A lot of them into double coverage, twice targeting DeAndre Hopkins too. Derek Carr and Rashid Shaheed connected on 3rd of 7 for the end of the third to make the first touchdown of the game. With 1 minute left at the end of the third quarter, that was the first touchdown of the game. And then the score sitting at 6-12 to New Orleans, a late pass interference call to set up a big finale for the Titans. Could they put a TD in? It was on a Conquo. They're in the red zone, but they could only score another field goal. And then the Carr deep ball to Rashid Shaheed again, who they used in the run game a lot in the absence of Alvin Kamara. He was a really well weapon at the end of last year, and he carried that. He was a good stand. It was a standout for me this game as well. But yeah, a Carr deep ball to Shaheed secured the game for the Saints, and neither team impressed me. If I'm being honest, but the Saints defensive line, I have my concerns. It's not what it has been in the past. The Titans offensive line, same thing. Tannehill got beat up a bit there, but it was just too. And also as well, the Saints fumbled the kick return to start the game. The Titans were put in an instant field goal range straight away. Pretty much in the red zone straight away. They couldn't put anything together. When you're handed an opportunity to start the game in the red zone, pretty much, and you don't score a touchdown, when you get you'll have your script there when you hit that. That is pretty bad offense, and that's just what I noticed in this game. I'm not confident about either team, but I think the Saints probably were the better team.
Yeah, I'm going to say this now. I think that could be one of the worst QB stat lines we see this season. It's just an absolute shocker. I mean, 16 of 34, 198 yards, 3 interceptions. It's just not the answer, as you said. I mean, the Titans had more first downs. They had 16 first downs compared to the Saints' 15, but 2 for 12 on third down efficiency is just abysmal. It is really, really bad. As you said, the first touchdown coming with a minute left in the third. It's not a good look for either team. As you said, Derek Carr it wasn't pretty for him either. When Alvin Kamara comes back, it gives them something. Chris Olave was a bright spark. 112 yards off 8 receptions is very, very handy. And having Mike Thomas there is going to help. So they
look raw. I saw potential, but they just didn't look like it gelled yet. Because obviously there's a lot of new quarterback and everything. And I feel like the Saints can be really good, and I was sort of disappointed, because the Titans are awful. Like I knew this game would be close. I couldn't pick it on the pod. I just couldn't pick it. I went with the Titans. It was obviously the Saints, but that won. But yeah, for me, I feel a lot more. I was expecting more from the Saints because they were really talented in offense. The defense, yes, it played well, but the Titans were bad offensively. The Titans really defensively, the Titans were quite good. I will say that, and their defense and Vrabel will win games. But the Titans' offense just worst unit of the game. I'd probably other than the Cardinals' offense, I'd say in the entire league yesterday, and it just wasn't great at all.
No, I mean, as you said, defensively, it might give them a couple wins. I mean, Mike Vrabel's a very good head coach. We've seen that when Tennessee have been on good runs, when Tannehill's been at his finest. But I mean, if your offense is going to be throwing games like that, you are going to struggle to win a lot of games. And yeah, it might be a long, arduous season for them, and probably the Saints as well. If they click, they could do something. But I mean, defensively, their defensive line, like you said as well, if they can't get after the quarterback, then the offense, I don't think, will put up many points. They won't win many shootouts, and it could be another long season for them as well.
Yeah, we'll see. Moving over to the AFC, where we saw all AFC matchup between the Baltimore Ravens and the Houston Texans. This one was an interesting one because I was kind of more impressed with the Texans than I was the Ravens, even though the Ravens ended up winning. I put the Texans to win this game because I didn't expect the Ravens to look great at all. I thought they were better than I thought they would be, but the Texans, I was more impressed because they did all this without an offensive line, because they're missing two of the best offensive players. Obviously, Laramie Tunsil played, but Kenyon Green's out and Titus Howard is out. So that's two starting offensive linemen. And for me, look, the Ravens' best player other than Lamar, who wasn't great, was Zay Flowers, their rookie, which says a lot on offense. He was really good. The first two Baltimore drives ended in a sack and interception for Lamar. The two straight punts for Houston. A big play from J.K. Dobbins and obviously Zay Flowers as well, who had a couple of big plays, put him in the red zone, and Dobbins put him in for 7. But after Dobbins left, the Ravens weren't great. Stroud led Houston to a field goal before time expired, showing composure in a 2-minute drill in his first start, 6-7. It was at half time. And then Baltimore the game swung more towards Baltimore's way after half time. They did TD after a couple of guys from Flowers and Rashad Bateman, who set up Justice Hill for a touchdown. They went for 2, it was successful. But then the Texans sort of lost it on their own right, because they got a PI call on Derek Stingley for a deep pass intended for Odell Beckham. That's again Hill up for rushing touchdown on the 1 yard, and he had that in as well, so that there could have been avoided. And then for me as well, the Ravens just didn't play. The Texans at this point, I think the game was gone, but the Ravens, for me, Lamar lost a fumble. It gave Houston good field position. The defense played very well for the Ravens, actually. I was very impressed with the defense because, again, Houston didn't really do a lot wrong. The defense for the Ravens was good. Roquan Smith sacked CJ Stroud to force a field goal there, because again, the Texans could have made it a very short one-score game had they scored there. Roquan Smith came in, bursting through the middle, sacked CJ Stroud and forced a field goal to make it 9-22. And then Stroud fumbled again on an Ajabo strip sack, which set up an opportunity. David Ajabo is all British. Great to see him do that yesterday, which is a good opportunity for the Ravens. Lamar found Beckham in the red zone, but they ended up with a field goal from Justin Tucker. But yeah, both these teams were incomplete, I'd say. I think it's just week one. The Ravens, their talent won in the game, but I think it wasn't a good game of football to watch. The offense for Lamar, it looked how I thought it would be. The less running for this offense, and for this quarterback, I don't think it's a good thing. I really don't, because I'm a big advocate for the run game anyway. They didn't really have it yesterday again, and I mean ultimately as well. I don't think Lamar can sit back and be a quarterback, a pocket passer. I don't think he can do that. I know he can hit a deep ball. I know he can hit a wide open Zay Flowers. I know he can do that, but I don't think he can glide a pass between two defenders into another, a receiver, I don't think he can do. I don't think he can thread the needle in the middle of the field. I really don't think he can do that well. I think it superpowers his legs, and they're trying to eliminate that. Obviously keeping him healthy, everything is great, but he just doesn't look the same quarterback at all to me. And I can't wait. CJ Stroud I think he looked good. He was second best rookie for me. Bryce Young didn't look great at all, which we'll get into in the next game. But yeah, I think these games at the end weren't great at all, and yeah, that's why they got left at the bottom of the running order.
Yeah, it's an interesting one for the Ravens, isn't it? I mean, one thing that's going to really hinder them is losing J.K. Dobbins yet again.
Oh, I
for
know.
the season.
Another injury. Well, that's my
Look-
thing as well. I don't trust the Ravens. I don't trust them because every single person, bar Zay Flowers again, who was the one who made the real difference yesterday, has an injury history. Whether it's
Yeah.
Ronnie Stanley, Lamar Jackson, Rashad Bateman, Odell Beckham Jr., all of them have injury histories over the past couple of years and have missed significant time. J.K. Dobbins has come in and done the same thing again. He's got injured in week 1.
And don't forget their defense either. I mean, that's just another injury clinic. I mean, Marcus Peters and Marlon Humphrey are just injured every other week.
Well, Marlon Humphrey missed this game. Mark Andrews, obviously, the elephant in the room is that Mark Andrews didn't play, which is why the Ravens offense didn't look great at all because he's their number one target. But like the defense isn't what it used to be. The pass rush did again. Admittedly, they played a very poor offensive line, but the pass rush did impress me actually, which I was good to see. It's probably my biggest sort of takeaway, other than Flowers being who I thought he could be. But no, the Ravens, I just don't trust them. I honestly feel like they won 8 games, maybe 9 games, but I honestly think that them, like, I can see them coming fourth in this division because they're going to get injured. All of them are going to get injured again. And unless I'm proved very wrong, I just see it.
Yeah, I've got Lamar in a few fantasy leagues, so I was following his point scoring quite closely. And I mean, as you say, it's not pretty. It really wasn't pretty. I was expecting them to put at least 30, maybe 40 points on the Texans because the Texans they're looking good. D'Amico Ryans is going to come in. He's going to change things up. They're going to look good. But it's week 1. You didn't think any of that was going to click. And if anything, I'd be more positive if I was a Texans fan coming out of that game than I would a Ravens fan because
totally.
The Ravens, well, it wasn't impressive at all. Lamar was nowhere near his MVP best, nowhere close. As you say, injuries are going to play a huge factor, and J.K. Dobbins being out for yet another year is just awful. Awful for him because you want him to play, you want him to stay healthy, but for the Ravens as well, it's just not what you want. I mean, a word on the Texans as well, as you said, CJ Stroud. He looked good. Second best rookie, you think? I mean, he looked fine. It'll come with time. Will Anderson as well, getting himself a sack on the defensive side. Mm-hmm. So they've got the talent there. They've got their first round picks can play, which is what they would have wanted. And there's stuff to like. Obviously, Texans fans knew this wasn't going to be the prettiest season, and it hasn't started maybe the way they wanted. But look, there's some positives there, and I think they can notch up some wins. Perhaps not too many, but if they can get 4 or 5 wins, which could happen after the way they played yesterday, it'll be a good season for them.
For sure. On to another rookie quarterback in Bryce Young. His Panthers unfortunately lost to the Atlanta Falcons, where their run game and new defensive pieces gave them the win. It was a good first drive for Bryce. Actually, he got to the 10, but Chuba Hubbard couldn't convert a 4th and 1. You know, the day might have gone very differently for the Panthers had that on the 10-yard line as well. They got no points from a first drive red zone opportunity. The game, if they scored, then it could have been very different. Completely. Atlanta punted after a turnover, and then Bryce Young looked for Hayden Hurst on the second down for the following drive, but Jesse Bates made a play. Jesse Bates jumped the route because it wasn't. The second one especially was Jesse Bates making. It was all Jesse Bates. This one here, I think he doesn't really see Bates lurking around the corner, but look, Hayden Hurst, I think a lot of callbacks make that throw. Mahomes and Hubbard made that throw. I think something like Tua with his quick presses can make that throw straight away. But by the time I actually got to Hayden Hurst, Jesse Bates was there to intercept Bryce Young. It set up an instant red zone opportunity for the Falcons, which they took with Bijan Robinson going in for his first career touchdown on a 12-yard screen pass from Desmond Ridder. He looked great yesterday. Robinson did as well. And I don't really know why they Cordell Patterson was a healthy scratch, to be honest with you. They had other running backs active, but if you can somehow get all 3 of them, Robinson, Algier, and Patterson into the game, then this Falcons run game is really good, and it's what it was hyped up to be. Desmond Ridder, Yeah. so they are very much running the ball and throwing checkdowns with this offense, which is what it sounded like it would be in training camp. That is the case. Midway through the third quarter, Ridder's stat line was 8 for 11 for 24 yards. Midway through the third quarter, very accurate, but that's 3 yards per that's 3 yards per attempt there, which is ridiculous, right? Per completion. Sorry, 3 yards per completion. That's even worse. But it's just like that's not good at all. Jesse Bates got his second interception, like I said, near midfield, jumping on another pass to Ian Thomas this time, the tight end. But the Falcons could only get a field goal, meaning it was 10-0 midway through the third quarter. But it's where the game turned. Miles Sanders lost a fumble. He gave the Falcons good field position. They took control of the game with this. After this, it was the first 2 Tyler Algier rushing touchdowns, like 17-10. And then a good ball by Desmond Ridder, who I really did like this, right, over 2 defenders to find Kyle Pitts near the goal line, set up the second touchdown for Algier to finish the game. Young took a beating towards the end of the game as well. The Panthers O-line was serious worry. I was the fact that I'm really low on the Panthers now. When a couple of months ago I was really hot, but I've seen them in the preseason. I've seen them in week 1. I don't feel like it's gonna be a great season at all for the Panthers now. Over the last month or so, I think things get worse and worse and worse. But for the Falcons, a team that I'm very high on, I said they got a great chance of winning the division. I really do believe that now. If you can find Ridder's nothing special, right? To me, Ridder looks like Ryan Tannehill. From what I was going to say, But what I'm saying is, Arthur Smith got Ryan Tannehill to the AFC Championship game. He looks like Ryan Tannehill, and he looked like the Tennessee days of Tannehill. If you need him to make a throw, like he did over Pitts, over 2 Pitts, over 2 defenders yesterday, he can do it. He doesn't turn the ball over. He didn't turn the ball over in his 4 starts last season either. Like, he doesn't. He's a very safe quarterback, but when you run the ball this far, when you've got one of the best offensive lines in football, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because you've got 3 running backs who are in the top 20 running backs in the league, I'd say. There's 3 of them. The Falcons were just as good as I thought it'd be, and it was really nice to see them. Panthers less so much, and I'm concerned for them. I really am.
Yeah, I mean that run game for the Falcons is glorious for them, and it's going to carry them to a significant charge for the NFC South title, isn't it? I mean, Algier Robinson and Cordell Patterson, who was a healthy scratch, like you said, that's some backfield. And when you can run like that, when you've got players like that, they'll take that all day, every day. Ridder, I mean, it's a very interesting stat line from a quarterback perspective. He'll just be their big time game management. And as you said, for the Panthers, it's going to be a very interesting season. I hope Bryce Young turns out to be what he's expected to be, because it will be nice. But again, it's big rebuilding time over there still, big time.
For sure. On to a team that is definitely rebuilding, the Arizona Cardinals. They played defense yesterday and gave the Commanders a bit of a scare in the Commanders' first win in the Josh Harris era. Washington got out to the lead as somehow scrambled left and found Brian Robinson for a touchdown. A few chunk plays really set up Arizona a resident opportunity. They had Hollywood Brown go for one, James Conner as well, but they were forced to a field goal because Josh Dobbs and the Cardinals offense just did not offer really anything at all yesterday. The defense played pretty well, like I said. They got some turnovers, they got some sacks as well. Howell turned the ball over after a weird kick from the field goal. Like I said, it went through the rushes and still landed between the uprights. It looked like it was going to be blocked, and it just went up and through. And it was from Matt Prater. That was odd. But yeah, after that, somehow threw the ball straight at Zaven Collins, who's a sort of hybrid linebacker. They're using him more as an edge rusher this year. But he was there in the middle of the field. Howell threw right at him, and again Matt Prater scored to put the Cardinals within 1 at 6-7 a minute before half time. The Cardinals then strip sacked Sam Howell as the ball came flying out and was covered for a touchdown by Cam Thomas, for the Cardinals giving them a 37 lead. And sitting at 16-10 to the Cardinals with seconds remaining in the third, Montez Sweat strip sacks Josh Dobbs and Deron Payne came up with the fumble recovery, and that's what won the game for the Commanders, because the Cardinals were there to win. They were honestly, I'd say they were probably the better team yesterday, especially like defense. The defense really stepped up under Jonathan Gannon. Obviously, he's come over from Philly. He let his defense stepped up massively last year to get into the Super Bowl, especially bringing in players midway through training camp and stuff like that, and was coming in and being the starters and everything. That was, but yeah, no, Sam Harrell scramble touchdown on a third and goal put the Commanders up 17-16 before Josh Dobbs dropped the snap to give Washington the ball back and hit a field goal to win the game 20-16. But yeah, it was the Cardinals impressed me yesterday on defense. Offensively, they weren't great, but neither were the Commanders offensively either. Sam Howell didn't look exceptional. This was again one of those games that is just week one, not great football. No. Two not great teams. The Commanders defense, obviously without Chase Young, they played well against it was just two. The defensive side of this game was great. It's just the offensive side was not great at all. And I think if I'm a Cardinals fan, I'm probably quite encouraged actually, and if I'm a Commanders fan, I'm not encouraged at all.
No.
But you got the win, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, I mean, the Commanders stock is slowly, wouldn't say slowly after yesterday, to be honest. It's coming down a bit. But as you said, week one, they'll just want to have got the win. Sam Howell, is he going to turn? Is he going to be the player that they think he can be? No one knows. It would be nice if he could, because that Commanders team can do so. Then Brian Robinson and Gibson in the backfield is nice, very nice to have. Curtis Samuel played nice yesterday. He was their leading receiver. But again, their defense was what won them the game. And when you have Montez Sweat and Deron Payne making plays, which they can do, they're going to help you win games. It was nice to see from the Cardinals to put up a fight defensively as well. Very, very nice. But Josh Dobbs isn't going to lead you to many wins in close games, unfortunately, for you Cardinals fans out there. But it was nice to see a bit of fight from them. The Commanders will just be happy to take an ugly win in week one and carry that on and see what they can do for the rest of the season.
Yes, that is very true. That will do it for this portion of the podcast. We will, I will come back tomorrow morning and break down Monday Night Football between the Jets and the Bills. I'm interested to see how this one goes, because there's a lot of hype about the Jets. The Bills have been in the talk recently, been talking, in the news recently of Stephon Diggs drama. Does he want out and everything? The two very good teams. Obviously, the Bills have been AFC elites for a while. The Jets have. The Jets have got Aaron Rodgers and on top of their incredibly good young team, and they've added Dalvin Cook, and I'm looking forward to seeing them. So I'll get back to you in a minute on that. That's my thoughts before the game. We'll find out in a few minutes what my thoughts are after the game. Thank you for joining me, Ollie. It's been great to have you on, especially a short notice as well, because we didn't know. Trying to get a guest late for this podcast was awful, because I really don't know what time I was going to be able to do it because of everything we did with the party last night. It was nice to meet you all, and I really enjoyed watching the games throughout today. Actually, to be honest with you, it took forever watching them. But yeah, thanks for coming on, Ollie. It's been great to have you on, and obviously I'll get you on loads in the future. Don't worry. But anything you'd like to say, and obviously. Any final takeaways?
Thank God football's back, eh? Week one was brilliant. It was what everyone wanted, and I think it's set up for a superb season, hasn't it?
It has indeed. There we are. Let's get into me. Thank you, Ollie, for coming on, of course. Let's get into me breaking down Monday Night Football. Let's see what happens. Well, last night was eventful, wasn't it? Aaron Rodgers looks to have probably unfortunately suffered a likely season-ending Achilles injury after being sacked by Leonard Floyd. It was basically eye-to-eye with Rodgers within about a second of the ball being snapped, because Dwayne Brown somehow went to cut block him. I don't know if he fell over or something. It looked like that was the case. I don't know, but yeah, Rodgers landed awkwardly and was helped to the blue tent before being carted back to the locker room, and then declared out about half time or so. The best case scenario probably for the Jets will be an ankle sprain, but they believe it looks to be an Achilles, which is obviously the second Achilles we've got this in week one already, with J.K. Dobbins going down as well with one, and yeah, from the initial X-rays, that's what the Jets believe it to be, which is really unfortunate because look, if I'm a Jets fan, I'm gutted. I mean, even for me, I was really excited to see how all those parts collide to make a super team, and they still looked really good last night. Obviously, coming away to win in Rodgers' absence, and being led by the unreal Jets defense that they had as well as Zach Wilson. He played a part too. They had Josh Allen spooked, and they upset the probably new favourite for the division, other than maybe the Dolphins, the Bills. Yeah, but if I'm a Jets fan, I'm gutted. I was looking forward to seeing Rodgers in a new environment and everything, and I'm sorry, Jets fans. It's a tough one to take that, but fingers crossed. It's nothing serious. It looks to be, unfortunately. Anyway, Josh Allen, he didn't look great at all last night. His first interception was just basically chuck up and hope it comes down well. He just tried to have a look at Deontay Harty downfield, but it was a huge overthrow. It was 3rd and 8 as well at this point. I think it's essentially a punt, this one, so I don't really think they weren't. They're in punt territory, so I can see why he tried to do it, but I just for the stat line that doesn't look great. So his play to find Diggs for the touchdown was really special, though, to be fair to him. As one that only a few QBs could do. He basically outran and and had the angle on edge rusher going to the right to find Stephon Diggs, allowed him time to get open. That was really good. That was only sort of him, Mahomes, Trevor Lawrence, those QBs can do that because they've got that strength, they've got that power to sort of burst past the oncoming pass rushers. Allen's second interception was another odd one for me. I don't really understand why he did it. He was targeting Stephon Diggs, who was downfield, who was double covered. Jordan Whitehead came away with the football this time. Two people who are bigger than Stephon Diggs are chucking it into basically a jump ball to Stephon Diggs in double coverage. That one just didn't make any sense to me. I think they're just trying to force some offense, and the fact that the Bills had to do that as well because they didn't really have anything in the pass game last night was interesting, to say the least. And we'll see. We'll follow how they got on the rest of the season. But for now, the AFC East is, especially how the Patriots looked like yesterday on Sunday, and how the Dolphins looked on week one. Week one has shook up the AFC East, so that'll be interesting to see how it over the next couple of weeks each of these teams shape out. His third interception was a second for Jordan Whitehead. He just pushed the ball. This one was the one that baffled me most, actually, because he just... Gabe Davis was running a corner, but he had a couple of people around him. It was a bit of a risky throw, and obviously Whitehead turned his back and came away with it. But if Allen just turned his head a little bit, Stephon Diggs was open for an easy first down there. He was running an inside route across, up and in, inside the middle of the field. And the defender was a good 3, 4, 5 yards off Diggs. So if he just literally just steps to the left, that's an easy first down. And Allen completely missed that throw, which is, again, I always think, in my back of my head, maybe be looking for Diggs first, and the fact he didn't do that when he was that open sort of worries me a little bit. But again, it's week one. Everyone's rusty. Burrow was rusty. Mahomes couldn't complete a pass to his receivers. Admittedly, it was more on the receivers' part, but yeah, we've seen Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, and Justin Herbert and all these big heavyweight QBs in the AFC come away with losses in week one. So it has been a certainly interesting week one. It was a really, and at that point as well, the Bills were 13-6 up when the third interception was thrown. An impressive drive from Zach Wilson following the interception. Got the Jets back in it, levering the scores at 13-13. For me, two plays stood out here. A really key third down throw under pressure. There's about four players round him. He steps up and finds out a wide open Alan Lazard for a first down. And also the TD passes to Garrett Wilson, because Garrett Wilson pulled off one of the best one-handed catches I've ever seen in crunch time last night. After that, the momentum was firmly with the Jets as Josh Allen lost he thought he fumbled a snap and then he lost a fumble with about 4 minutes left, and the Jets just ran the clock down to 1:48 and took the lead of a 30-yard Greg Zuerlein field goal. Josh Allen did what Josh Allen does. He got the Bills back in it. He led them to a Tyler Bass field goal within seconds remaining to go to overtime. But in overtime, the Bills couldn't produce anything offensively. They punted on possession, and that was the game. Because rookie Xavier Gibson returned a short punt to the house to give New York a win. He was a star in Hard Knocks towards the end, and yeah, it just felt everything after that Wilson drive. It just felt like the Jets were going to win this one. I think just because it's like they're all rallied. It's an emotional game. They've lost their leader under the new and also previous leader in Zach Wilson. They're coming back down the field. They're looking good, and everyone's stepping up and. The special teams played well. The special teams stepped up, made a play, and won them the game. And yeah, I think honestly, even without Rodgers, I think the Jets are going to be around 8, 9, 10 wins anyway. I think that's the case. Admittedly, they've got hard schedules. They may be on the lower end of that scale, but Rodgers is a big miss for this team, who obviously had Super Bowl aspirations. If I'm a Breece Hall fantasy owner, I'm very happy because he looked really good last night. Dalvin Cook wasn't good in his return. We're here about 2.3 yards per carry or something like that, which is not great. So James Cook looked all right, especially a couple of bursts through the Jets defense, especially when you're playing against a defense that's really hard to run on anyway. That's a good sign for the Bills, and hopefully they can really rely on a run game because they basically rely on Allen for offense. So that was an encouraging sign for the Bills, at least. And actually, I think, just to finish, that was one of the best games, if not probably the best game I've seen Zach Wilson have. He threw the interception early on, but he came back and really that second half, Zach Wilson, well, again, he produced a drive that got not only the Jets back in there, but really set them up to win the game. And that's a really good sign for New York, obviously, who have invested a lot into him. It's just a shame that it had to come in this situation, obviously, where you have Aaron Rodgers also in that QB room, and he looks to be done for the season. But that is it for the Full 10 Yards NFL podcast this week. Thank you for listening. It's been a bit of a long one. We've got less games in the Sunday winning next week, so it'll be a shorter one. But either way, it's nice to break down football games. We're only getting better. It's a new thing for us, or for me anyway, taking over the podcast, and we'll be here each and every week to break down and preview the games on a Sunday and a Monday. Don't you worry whatsoever. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you're on YouTube, if you have watched it this far, please don't forget to like and subscribe on the video, because it does help you out. It puts us right in your feed as soon as the video is released as well. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, feel free to watch the YouTube version. I'd probably say it's the best version you can watch. You can stream, because you get to see a lot of laughing, which we have on the podcast and between guests and stuff, and it really just it enhances the experience. But anyway, that's it. That's all. Bring on week 2, I say. This has been the Full 10 Yards NFL podcast. I've been your host, Sam Moores, and football's back.